Hi, everyone. Welcome to Guardian Recovery Network Live. I am your host, Kevin Michael Lazik. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. We have a fantastic guest in Christina Rubino lined up for you this evening. She is a person in long-term recovery, also currently works for Guardian Recovery Network as a community outreach specialist. A couple Guardian-related announcements. March 1st, our newest facility in Tampa, Florida, Cura South, will be opening its doors to serve anyone in need. It's a beautiful facility. It's a detox only, and you will receive world-class care there in a beautiful setting. And we are excited to add Cura South to our network of facilities. So we want to get right into it, and I am going to bring in Christina Rubino. Christina, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And we both got our selfie lights going.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have the selfie lights.
You have to have the ring light. It's a must.
Totally. It fixes everything. So I know you've been in recovery since 2013. You grew up on Long Island, currently still reside on Long Island. I want to ask you a question first. Tell us something about you that people may not know.
People may not know. That's like a tough first question. I feel like I'm so open with my life that I really don't think that there's much that people don't know. Anything that I love or really like, I love to share with other people. Maybe it's just that my favorite, you know, my favorite takeout is like tacos. Maybe people don't know that, but I am a mom. I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old. I'm in recovery. I'm pretty open about that. I love animals. I love gardening. I love my work. And
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head.
yeah.
That definitely is I should have saved that one for a little bit into it. It's definitely a tough question right off the rip.
It's okay.
But I think everyone loves tacos. I know I love tacos.
It's yeah.
So I want to do a little deep dive into your story. So kind of take us back to kind of the beginning of it and kind of when you first started to experiment in drugs and alcohol and what that looked like.
Sure. So I come from a big family. I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and you know, um, a lot of my not that I like to talk about other people, but a lot of my family, qualifies themselves as, either an alcoholic or an addict. My mom's sober about 30 35 years, I wanna say. She's been sober all my life, and then, my brothers and sisters, we've all, not all of us, but a couple of us have, spent some time, exploring whether or not we are or are not, and we've shared a lot of the same struggles. Drugs and alcohol growing up, I was always told, this runs in our family, this runs in our family. It's something you have to watch out for. Um, and I know it's so strange to talk about, but I witnessed what drugs and alcohol could do to a family growing up. I grew up with it. There was good times and there was bad times. Um, and you would think that it would deter me from using drugs and alcohol, but if anything, maybe it did the opposite.
Did you
Um,
ever say to yourself, like, I'm not going to be like that. I swear I'm not going to be like that. And then,
you know,
the day comes where you end up being exactly what you said you were not going to be.
honestly, I don't think I had a good enough grip on what was going on, to say I wouldn't be like that. Um, I can say that, around 12 or 13, drugs and alcohol came into my life. And when they did, I finally felt peace and I felt like I could breathe. I felt like growing up, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings I had no idea how to cope with or manage or deal with. And so when I found drugs and alcohol, it was like I felt like I could breathe. I felt like I could talk to people. I felt like I could finally function. So there was never a time in my life where I questioned whether or not um, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. It was kind of something like I knew right away I was different than other people from the way that I sought out drugs and alcohol. My friends. And
How old were you when you first picked up?
I think I, experimented with, someone, a liquor cabinet at like 12, but soon after that it was, well, who's getting the, you know, the beer or this or that for this weekend. It was what I always looked forward to. And then it quickly turned into hiding alcohol in my room and smoking weed. And I was constantly, getting in trouble at every turn. And it just progressed so quickly, so quickly.
Did you see it like affect your schooling? Did it start to, did you start to have consequences in high school? Were you that far into it at that point where it was affecting your
Yes.
ability
So
to do well?
I was, yeah, like I said, my disease progressed very quickly. At 15, I was introduced to pain medication, and it seemed kind of innocent. I don't know why, but not that it was innocent. I just had no idea really what I was dealing with or the magnitude of it. You know, and what I knew was I felt out of control when I would drink alcohol. And so instead of like, falling down and getting in trouble and, in trouble at school and trouble at home, this was something that I just sounds silly. I thought I could control. um, and, it went downhill very, very, very fast. I think my first inpatient was 16. Immediately, my friends kind of said, like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" I lost my friends. I stopped going to school. Um, and then like I that's kind of where like my treatment journey began. Um,
I would imagine too, having a mom in recovery does probably put a little damper on things because, she's not going to let you slip too long.
um, it was so, so clear to me. And I don't I just the other day, like, I've been dealing with a lot of loss in my life recently, but I mean, in recovery, we always deal with loss. But it was kind of just hitting me hard the other day, and I walked over and I gave her a hug, and I was like, "Thank God for you. Thank God she got sober. Thank God she knew not to enable me. Thank God." It wasn't very long. I think I had went to treatment like 3 times or something, and then by the time I was 16, she said, "You're not allowed here. You're not allowed in this house. You're not allowed, you're not gonna live here, and you're not gonna use drugs like this." And I was out. There was, like, 4 years where I didn't see her unless I was going to rehab.
Wow.
Um,
So did it get to the point where you couldn't even graduate high school, or did you eventually graduate?
so I did stop going to school in 10th grade. I got my, I turned to maintenance drugs. Like I said, it was Oxycontin and Percocet and stuff at like 15, and then by 16, I was using heroin, and then everything spiraled and crumbled so quickly. Um, I stopped going to school. I had no interest in anything that didn't involve drugs and alcohol. Um, and so I stopped going to school, and I just did what I had to do to, um, you know, supply my drug habit. And I got introduced to methadone at 17, and I went and
Nice.
got my GED.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
No, I meant the GED part, not
Yeah.
the methadone part.
Yeah. But
The
the drugs affected my entire life, everything, every aspect. They're the only people who wanted anything to do with me were the people I was using with, and sometimes not even them.
One of my favorite parts in the literature, it's in one of the bedtime stories, but it talks about alcoholics change their goals to meet their behaviors. Non-alcoholics change their behaviors to meet their goals. And I know, looking back at my story, that was it in a nutshell. Instead of changing my behaviors, I would always move the goalpost and come up with a new goal or, a reason why I couldn't attain what I was trying to do. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. I wanted I understood that I was an alcoholic, and I understood that I was sick, but I didn't know how to get better. I couldn't really grasp the concept. So there was nothing I wanted, there was so much hope. My family, there was nothing I wanted more than to come home and, be a good daughter, be a good sister, be a good friend, go to high school, go, just have a job and like function. Um, and I couldn't understand why I would, you know, think that all I had to do was go to a 30-day program and be removed from drugs and alcohol for a little bit. And that if the physical aspect of the malady was relieved, that I would be better. And I wasn't, I had to really come to terms with the fact that I had this like soul sickness. And it wasn't just being removed, because I'd come out and I'd have every intention, every fiber of my being wanting to do the right thing, and I couldn't. I was powerless. I experienced the powerlessness of the disease for like a couple good years.
How old were you when you finally got sober?
I was 19. It was a month before my 20th birthday.
Oh, wow.
I just gotten out of rehab, and my family came down on my 20th birthday and like, had a little party for me at my sober house.
My wife got sober really young too. She got sober at 17.
It's like people ask me all the time to, um, do everyone used to like call me a baby, they'd be like, oh, you're a baby, you're a baby. I was so spiritually broken and so empty, and so beaten down that there was no other option for me. I really became suicidal at the end of my use because I couldn't understand why, um, drugs weren't making me feel better anymore, and being abstinent really wasn't making me feel better. And I didn't think I was going to find any peace unless I was, dead. And that's very sad, but that's what my life came to. And I've lost so many people along the way that I know like I'd be there. I'd be dead too. If I didn't get sober and accept help, I would be dead.
What did the last kind of couple months of you using look like, and what kind of ultimately led you to ask for help that last time?
Um, I was like I said, I was so lucky that, my mom was sober herself, and my she worked with treatment centers, and so it was always available. She always said, if you want help, call me. If you want help, call me. Um, and I would always call, and I always wanted help. But I was so afraid of getting sober because I had this idea in my head and it always took me back out, right? Alcohol. I'd be like, I'm young. I want to have fun. I want to like drink alcohol, and like I'd put a substance into my body, and the second I did, I was like set off. So I learned a couple times, just because I use using heroin doesn't mean I could use alcohol. But the last couple months of my use, um, you know, I had I was always bouncing around, where I was living with was basically like whoever I was using with. But at the end of the day, it came down to, people who would enable me. My sister had a weak spot for me, and she would try to help me, and she would let me stay with her. And it always ended so ugly. It was always, she'd leave to go to work, and I'd swear I was going to stay sober. And, you know, she'd go to work, and I had no, you know, like I would go pick up, or I'd have someone come to the house and drop something off, and it always ended in a fight in the driveway or something, something terrible. And it really came down to the people who like loved me stopping enabling me. So my dad too. My dad would let me live with him, and it was because he was scared. He said it, he didn't want something to happen to me somewhere else. And not know where I was, or for me to die or something like that, and him, not know where I was. But it came down to a day. He lost his sister too when he was younger. He lost his sister, and we were in the car, and I thought he was picking me up to bring me home. And when we got back to his house, he said, "You can't come here." He said, "I lost my sister and I'm not losing my daughter too." And he said, "I'm not going to allow this." And he didn't let me live with him anymore. And my sister didn't let me live with her anymore. And, I was out of resources, and it didn't stop there. It took me probably like another year to finally get sober. Um, but it was totally, it was people, it came down to, people stopped enabling me. And I, what really, like, I was so, so, so empty, and so I wanted to stop. I'd probably say I wanted to stop for about 2 years. I really wanted to stop. And at that point, it was just a matter of trial and error, um, what
Did
worked.
you call, so when you were finally ready, did you call your mom?
I did. I called her.
Nice.
And at that point, she didn't deal with me directly. She had other people help me, but I knew it was her. I knew it was someone who knew her. Um, and it was in the middle of November, and there were no beds for 6 days. And during those 6 days, every single night, I was like, I was really praying. I was like, God, if there is a God, please help me. And then I can't even say that the last time I went in was any different than the first time I went in, with like, the eagerness to get better. It was just more of like a willingness to surrender, to finally say, wow, maybe like I don't know how to do this, and maybe I do need help from other people.
Do you remember like a moment in treatment that kind of was pivotal for you? Something that someone said that really kind of, I know you said you kind of went in with, a little bit of eager willingness, but can you pinpoint anything that in
Yeah,
treatment?
I would say I was eager and willing every time. But then like you start to feel a little bit better, and you think you know what's best for yourself. Um, it came down to just like being willing to take suggestions from other people. I never wanted to listen. They'd say, "Oh, go to outpatient." I'd say, "No, thank you." They'd say, "Go to meetings." And I'd say, "No, thank you." And they'd say, "Do X, Y, and Z." And I'd be like, maybe I'll do a couple of those things, not all of them. But this time I was like, all right, I'm going to die, and I want to die, and I also want to live. So like maybe I should listen to people who have gone on before me. And so I was in the treatment center. Her name was Maggie. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but her name was Maggie. And I was talking with her. She was sober a couple years, and I said, like, what do I do? Like, how do I stay sober? Um, and she showed me the third step prayer in the big book, and she highlighted it for me, and she said, tonight before you go to bed, I want you to get on your knees, and I want you to say this third step prayer. And I didn't like have like I wouldn't say I had a relationship with God. I was raised Catholic, but like I didn't have any conception of or working a relationship with any type of universal love or anything like that. um so I said, what am I praying to? And I think she said something similar to like, you can borrow my God, or like if you believe like this worked for me, you can borrow my God. And that's what I did. And it was awkward. um you know it was terribly awkward, but I needed to get better. And I was like, whatever, she knows what she's talking about. And I remember I was falling asleep, and I had a roommate in rehab, and I was waiting for this girl to go to bed because I didn't want to get on my knees in front of someone else and pray. I was so it's how funny is it, like, how big our egos can be when we're, like, in
Oh,
rehab. Um, but I was falling asleep, and this girl wasn't going to bed, and I was like, "Whatever, I'm just gonna do it." And I did. I got on my knees and I said the third step prayer, and then I went to sleep. And in the morning, it was a magical moment because the girl was like, "Hey, what were you doing last night?" And I was like, "Oh God, she's gonna think I'm a nut." Um, and I told her I was praying, and she actually asked if she could join me the next time. And now my favorite thing to do to this day is like to pray with people. It's it's amazing.
did you keep in contact with her?
The girl, I do, yeah, I have kept in contact with her.
Tell me she's still sober.
So she's sober today. Yes,
All right.
I would say.
That works for me.
Yeah.
What was your first year in recovery like? Because I know, looking back at my own recovery, I made a lot of mistakes. Were there any mistakes that you made? And, I definitely made a ton of them. So don't feel,
Yes, I was still, extremely self-centered, and I didn't really know how to, behave, and I had to be shown the way. I had to learn how to ask for guidance. I had to learn how to bring God into each and every single one of my relationships, all of them. I made a lot of mistakes. I probably hurt a lot of people. And it's so funny when you have to go back and make amends for something that you've done in sobriety. I mean, we're human and we fall short, but I mean, like, yeah, I definitely hurt people. I definitely made mistakes. I was living in a sober house for a couple months. Um, I had moved home, and it was so terrifying because I was 20 years old, back in my hometown where I used drugs all my life, and I had no sober support group. Um, and so I called a girl I knew from high school, and we used drugs together, and I knew she was sober. So I was like, all right, I'm going to call her. And I called her, and she picked me up and she brought me to a meeting. And, it was a 12-step fellowship, and the room was packed, like 100 people, and all young people too. It was a new fellowship on Long Island, and the room was so packed. If you wanted to share, you had to stand on a chair and like jump up and down. And I found it was like I was home. I was like, oh my God, these people are all like me. We used, you know, not ancient literature. We used literature that had worked for other fellowships, and we followed those guidelines. And, I found people that are my best friends to this day. And we laughed and we cried and we made mistakes and we fixed them, but we held each other accountable. We really did. I had a friend, I was such a brat, you know. I'm not I say was, maybe I don't know. I was terrible. And I had this huge attitude. And one day she saw me talking to my mom some type of way or someone, and she's like, "What the hell was that? Like, what was that?" And she was like, she held me to like, the highest standard. She's like, "That's just not how we act." So it was a lot of learning, and I'm still learning. It's a daily thing where I ask God to guide me in all areas of my life, especially my relationships.
isn't it a beautiful thing though, when you kind of finally find that place, that meeting where you're just like, man, this is it. I'm home. Um, it's such a beautiful thing.
It's yeah, it's been a blessing to be there, to grow, to watch other people grow, to just have a solution.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because, I always consider it um, a privilege that you have the opportunity to work with someone else in a fellowship. Can you kind of talk about that experience of working with others?
Yeah. It's so I attend a 12-step fellowship where someone, took me through the 12 steps, and when we got done, we went through it quickly, and I would say, efficiently and thoroughly. And as soon as I was done, she said, "Now go help someone else." And it's been the biggest blessing in my life to be able to connect with someone on that level and know that, I share their pain, but like I also share their joy, because like we get to experience life now. We don't have to suffer anymore, right? That there's this common theme that like there's this loving universal power that has come into our hearts and transformed us, and we get to work together at that, day in and day out, and rely on each other, lean on each other, be honest with each other, um, fall down, get back up. And it's, there's nothing like it. It's the reason I'm alive today. I know it. Um, I used to, back when I was active and struggling, I think, why am I alive? Like, why am I here? Because like, if all I'm gonna do is die this way, like what's my purpose here? But today I know exactly what my purpose is. It's to help people who are like me. It's to help their families. It's to help them. It's to, you know, what we're doing right here, all of it.
Carrying the message.
Yeah.
Who's your biggest inspiration?
Oh my God, I have a couple.
And you can have a couple. You don't have to just keep it to one.
I mean, over the years, I've studied different spiritual paths, and so, just kind of like doing some exploring, whether it's on Instagram or if it's different books. Gabrielle Bernstein, I love, love, love her. She's an amazing author. I first read her book, Judgment Detox, and I did her journal along with it. And then I read her other book, Super Attractor. These are all books about, healing trauma, connecting with spirits, stuff like that. And
Is Judgment Detox exactly what basically trying to detox yourself from
all
judging
judgment,
people?
all judgment. And you really get to see how when you judge someone, it's based off of your wound, and yourself rather than, than them. And so it gets to, when you judge someone, you create that separateness. And when you are able to pivot and turn and say, what does this have to do with me? It helps you kind of heal that part of yourself that is, needing to be healed. And you can pivot and kind of have compassion for yourself and for that person. And instead of spreading hate and anger and judgment, all that, like you're instead spreading love and compassion. So I love her, Gabrielle Bernstein. I love Deepak Chopra. I love Marianne Williamson. She wrote A Return to Love, and she ran for president. Not this last time. Maybe it was this last time. I can't remember if it was last time or this time before. But
Wait, what did you say the name was?
Marianne Williamson, and she's a spiritual leader. And I feel that a lot of times spiritual leaders kind of want to have their hands off politics, but she's like, no, we have to have our hands in this. If there's going to be a driving force, it needs to be love. Oh, that's Gabby Bernstein. Yeah, The Universe Has Your Back. I haven't read that one. I think that was her third book, but I just got her book, Happy Days. And again, it's about, transcending trauma into
You definitely should connect with my wife because that's her book.
My mom is an inspiration. I have a huge support group. They're all my inspiration. Anyone who is like out here sober, carrying the message, trying to like save lives and help people, they're all my inspiration.
Awesome.
Yourself included.
Well, thank you. You are very inspiring as well.
Thanks.
I want to talk. So you've been with Guardian, what, 4 or 5 months? 4 months? Can you talk about that experience and kind of what drew you to Guardian and wanting to work with us, for us?
Gosh, I love Guardian so much. It's so aligned. You guys, this company is so aligned with what my beliefs are. And I love that we have the 12-step model. So, the moment someone comes into detox with us, immediately we're working with the family. And that's a key role. And it's something that can easily be passed up on or missed, right? If someone just wants to go detox, they just want to go kick for a couple of days, they kind of want it to be private, and then they want to go back home and act like everything's all good. It's all good. But when we get to involve the family, a lot of healing takes place. A lot of things that need to get said, and they're done in a safe setting with, a master level clinician and people who have been dealing with this for years, right? The goal isn't to enable the person anymore. It's to help support them in their recovery. And like part of their support system is being connected with the people that they're going home to.
Absolutely.
So I love that. We have a really strong family involvement program, and I love that we use the 12-step model. So while someone's in treatment with us, they have the opportunity to go through the 12 steps with a 12-step coordinator. We add in the clinical piece too, so they get the therapy that they need. And I think that the therapy combined with the 12-step model, I like use my hands so much when I talk. I need to sit on them. I
No,
just
I do love that too. And it's a lot of places will kind of, introduce the 12 steps, but at Guardian, we really, it's a deep dive in. And like you said, you have that 12-step contact that's helping you get through the book, getting you into your writing. And then also you have that clinical support because, as you know, and I know, stuff comes up in your writing, um, some stuff that might
trauma.
not, yeah, trauma that, just a step person or a sponsor is ill-equipped to deal with it. And so by those two working as a team, they're able to address a much broader, deeper range of issues and really work collaboratively.
Yeah, and then not only that, we set people up with the full continuum of care. So when they leave us, they're not really leaving us. They're continuing on their journey, and we make sure that they're set up for, the best route possible. And the past couple of months that I've been working, anytime someone returns home to Long Island, the clinicians are calling me. They say, Christina, we just need some contacts for this patient who's coming home, people that are sober. And like just the fact that we put so much care into each treatment plan is what really
Absolutely.
gets me. I love it.
What's your favorite part about being in recovery?
Um, I guess I would say that it's just the joy and the ability to show up. I used to be nowhere to be found. It could be I used to not show up to anything. I didn't show up for good or bad. I didn't show up to funerals. I didn't show up to birthday parties. I didn't show up to anything. And if I did show up, I left. And it was usually ugly. So just the fact that I get to be present today, today I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a mother. I'm a colleague, I'm all of these things. The fact that I get to show up and be present, not just be present, but be useful in any situation. That's always, how I ask to be God. I ask to be useful. However, God wants to use me is how I want to show up.
Awesome. How the relationship with your sister repair itself through recovery?
Um, my sisters, I love them all. I have 4 brothers, 3 sisters, and it's just, it's so funny because we go through the amends process and we think that it's going to be so terrible after we say our part and all the things that we've done and how we want to show them the effort to change. And um, it's, it's, um, it's definitely transformed. It's evolved a lot. So, trust has been restored, trust and faith, right? Because even if they say they trust you, it's like, well, how far does that go? But, it's like I said, I get to show up and I get to be present with my family. Um, it's, it's everything, to me, family's everything. And, just to have that back and not know that I'm not hurting them anymore and that all that they want is for me to be sober and to, keep doing what I'm doing is such a blessing, just that
It's a beautiful thing.
family just kind of shows you unconditional love. You can do the worst, you could do your worst, give them your worst, and they're still going to love you. And, support you no matter what. So I've had their endless love and support, which is amazing. It's still to this day when I talk to my sister, she tells me, she's so happy I'm here. She's so happy I'm alive. She's so happy that I got help, and she's happy we can have a relationship.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, we are just about out of time, so I really want to thank you. You definitely have an inspiring story, especially getting sober so young. And it's a beautiful thing when someone can get sober that young, because I know how difficult it is, but you have made an impact, and you're going to continue to make an impact and help so many more people. So I'm proud to know you and proud to work with you. And thank you again for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a blessing and an honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back next Thursday, and we will see you all then. Be well, stay safe.
Bye.